of Jim Crow, you could still have the persistence of racial discrimination, the disparities between black and white, etc. for 45, 50 years after the fact. And that is incredibly, I think that is incredibly important argument to inject into this debate, especially when all of these questions about rates of unemployment, poverty, et cetera, continue to go on. And so that gets back to the questions that the movement itself and these particular leaders were grappling with at the end of their lives. That if racism is something that does persist, even after you change the laws, then how is it that you get rid of it? And for, they were coming to grips with different explanations of that, which is clearly evidenced by King's quote and talking about we have to think about the system and ask questions about this system. They were killed. We don't know what conclusions they would have come to, but we're not dead. And understand that the same questions that were raised then are questions that need to be raised now. And really understanding, I think, the centrality of racism to American capitalism, which raises the question of can you actually get rid of racism under capitalism? And that is not to say that struggles for reforms against it are unimportant. And people who denounce reforms really need to get a clue. Because reforms are important for two reasons. One is because they make people's lives better in the here and now. If we got rid of the racist death penalty, is that some sort of sellout maneuver that, is just deluding the masses? No, it actually means the difference between Troy Davis being executed and Troy Davis being alive, and a whole number of other African Americans and Latinos and white people who are on death row because they use racism to justify having the death penalty in the first place, even though they're very multiracial in their application of its use. And so, in that sense, reforms, fighting for affirmative action, not less but more, fighting against racist policies, fighting for equitable funding for public schools, so on and so forth. These are things that are not just ways to delude people in the system. These are actually critical in terms of making people's lives better in the here and now, but also raising the expectation that we should demand more. Part of what people try to explain the growing radicalization and anger within the black movement in the 1960s was what the politicians, both Democrats and Republicans, called the revolution of expectations. And what they meant was that when millions of black people migrated from the south to the north, they were coming with the idea that life would be better. And when it wasn't, it pissed people off. And it sent people, it radicalized people, and sent people into clashes, direct clashes with the system. And that's how radicalization and consciousness changes. It's not just someone who is a radical telling you, what you should expect and that things should be different. It's also your own encounter with the injustices of the system. You might need radicals or encounters with radicals to explain why that is, and to explain that a different world, a different reality is possible. Which millions of radicals in the 60s came to that conclusion. The Black Panthers at one point were selling 80,000 newspapers a week, talking about not just that the system sucks, but that we have to actually change it. We have to rip it down. And so that is a concrete and specific role that radicals can play, not just telling people that their consciousness should change, but understand that those sorts of encounters with the system raise questions for people about what they should do next. And what we're saying in the ISO is that we have an alternative. It's not us physically, we're the alternative, but it's an alternative idea of how society should be organized, that we have to question a society that relies on racism and divisions to keep the majority of people divided so that the people at the top of the system maintain their power, versus a society in which we all are collectively responsible for the decision-making and the direction of that society. And so for people who are interested in that alternative, in that different world, world and want to organize with us to help promote that idea in the struggles that we're involved with, in the different struggles that we're involved with, should learn more about our group and get involved.